Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. We really appreciate all the support. We are super excited. We got another awesome interview for you guys. We are joined today by another legend of the business. He has nearly 50 credits to his name that span over 4 decades with roles that include A League of Their Own, Pee Wee's Big Adventure, The Naked Gun, NCIS, NYPD Blue, Teen Wolf, Leprechaun, Leprechaun Returns, and of course portrayed John Wayne Gacy in 2003's Gacy. If you're a child of the 80s, chances are you know his work. Mr. Mark Holton, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me on. And I got to say this right at the top. You are one hell of an artist, man. I was looking your store over, and your artwork is mind-blowing.
Oh, really appreciate that. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh yeah, that's Brian. Brian's our art man. He's awesome. He does a great job. Mr. Holton, we like to kick all our interviews off with. Can you just tell us what kind of got you into acting?
Yeah, actually, I was in ninth grade and had a very poor grade in English, and the English teacher said, well, we're going to have an intramural competition for standard oratory. And those of you who are not doing so well in the class can get extra credit if you would like to enter this competition. And she looked right at me, and I thought, well, that's probably maybe time to go for that extra credit. Yeah, so I had seen the movie Patton. Now, I'm a freshman in high school. I'm in a little town in Oklahoma that's literally the buckle on the Bible Belt. And so I chose, wisely of course, to do Patton's address to his men, which is laced from beginning to end with profanity.
Right.
But I had my little 33 and a third record player, and I had, the soundtrack to the film, and I memorized it, listening to George C. Scott deliver the speech over and over and over. And I found myself in front of the entire high school in the theater delivering it. And you can imagine, kids back then, high school kids, hearing that language. It was an uproar. Soon after I finished, I was summoned to the vice principal's office.
Bet.
And I went, I'm dead, man. I'm dead. So I sat down, and he looked at me over the top of his glasses, and he said, you know that we do not condone that type of language here, don't you, Mr. Holton? And I said, yes, sir, but it was just for the competition. And he said, okay, get out of here. Good job.
Nice.
And I won a little tiny gold medal that I still have. And that was in 1972. So, I kind of took that as a hint. Maybe I should start getting involved in high school speech and going to tournaments and auditioning for plays. But that was the moment that did it.
Well, that's awesome, and it escalated pretty quickly. I mean, not very far after that, you got Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Can we talk about that a little bit? As kind of your first big movie, and that film's still talked about today. With everybody loves that thing, and your role as Pee Wee's nemesis, Francis. It was such a good villain role. Can you talk a little bit about that and as a villain, did you have any inspiration maybe when creating that role for yourself?
Well, everybody knows snotty, snobbish people with superior attitudes, and we probably all know several. And of course, literature and film are full of these people. And the Brits, it's usually a very someone in the very upper crust. So there was a lot to choose from there, and I kind of rolled it all into one. And there was a person in my neighborhood that was not to the manner born, but had that attitude. And I got to a lot on my encounters with that person.
There's always one in every neighborhood, isn't there?
Well, there was one in mine.
No doubt. So how was it working with the iconic Tim Burton? Do you have any special memories about that?
Tim was a very good director. He's one of these guys that, without telling you exactly what he wants, he'll talk around it to where you will come to the conclusions that he wants you to come to.
Right.
Which is something that very, very few directors, in my experience, have that gift. I remember him saying to me, "Try not to make him so fey." And I thought, what the hell does that mean?
I was wondering the same thing.
What, fey? What, fey? Gay? What do you mean? And I later, found out it means fairy, which is what he could have meant, but it also means disparaging and offensive. And
okay.
I think maybe I was coming on a little bit hot, a little bit disparaging and offensive, maybe a little over the line during the first couple of takes. And I guess I dialed it back and gave him what he wanted, but it turned out to be, they say behind every hero is a good villain, and took me a long time to become proud of that work, but I am.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in this genre. I mean, the villain is the almost the hero in every single one of these horror movies, just about. So.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of that, Mr. Holton, there's a new HBO documentary in the works on Paul Rubens you're involved with. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'm not involved with it. I just found out about it last night, actually. I don't know if they're going to contact me or not. We'll see. But I thought, wow, this is huge for Paul. And sent him a congratulatory message today. He's definitely earned it. The recognition, definitely.
Absolutely. I think they'd be kind of crazy not to call you, being such a big integral part of that movie. I would think you're definitely going to be getting a call. Not that I work for HBO or anything.
Well, they can find me if they want me. I'm here. You did.
Yes. Yes, sir. Can you talk a little bit about Teen Wolf? I mean, you were in both sequels at that time. I mean, Michael J. Fox was one of the hottest stars on the planet with Back to the Future. How'd you get that role, and can you talk a little bit about those movies?
I don't remember how I got the role, but I think it's safe to say that I went to an audition and they cast me.
Okay.
I really don't remember. But the next thing I know, I'm on this, in this auditorium or this basketball court in this shut down high school. And it had been shut down for gang violence or something. There were shell casings on the pavement every day when we showed up.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes it'd be 38, sometimes it'd be 9mm, sometimes it'd be shotgun shells.
Oh, geez.
We never had any problem, but apparently at night there was a whole lot going on there. And Chubby was pretty much written just for a handful of fat jokes. But just talking with Mike, he decided to kind of help me, step in and say, well, what if, this or that and the other, and it helped me evolve that role into something that was a little more realistic, something that everyone who's undergone the bullying in high school and the class structure and all that, something they could identify with.
Right.
And so the role was literally being molded as the film progressed. And I've always, I know that without Mike's, thumbs up on that probably wouldn't have happened. Chubby would just be another background figure.
Oh, yes, sir. Mr. Holton, last night we just recorded our St. Patrick's Day bonus of Leprechaun. I don't think anybody will mind. I think a lot of people would agree with us saying that your role as Ozzy with Robert Gorman's Alex was probably, our two favorite characters, of course, and with Warwick Davis. Uh, can you talk a little about that and the chemistry with you two and just about that film? We all really liked you two's characters' dynamics together.
Well, Robert and I bonded instantly. In fact, the whole core cast did. While Warwick Davis went through makeup and prosthetic hell for hours, we spent our hours, waiting, laughing, mostly at Jennifer. But, yeah, bright, quick, pretty. I knew she would succeed.
Right.
Because you get them in threes. You got somebody comes up with something that's a laugh, somebody adds something else, and then she comes in with a kill. With just it's like, oh my God, where does this woman come from? You're gold. She kept me in stitches and everything, but yeah, we were a pretty, close knit group and got along great. And poor Warwick, they were still using spirit gum back then, which if you've ever smelled it even from a distance, you can imagine the hell he was put through on a daily basis going through that. And I think that's the biggest difference between the two films was just the amount of technology that had changed for the better, of course, in over 25, 27 years, however many years it was.
Right. Yeah, we've had Robert Englund and Kane Hodder on the show, and especially Robert really talked about how he basically loves the character of Freddy Krueger, but almost basically kind of got out of it because of the prosthetic process, because of the makeup. No matter, even though it has gotten better over the years, he still hated it. It still was bad. So.
Well, I got put through the ringer with that, with Leprechaun Returns. Of course, Ozzy dies, and you have Ghost Ozzy. And I was in the makeup chair for 2.5 hours for those days. It was amazing, and they were doing it old school with airbrush. So it was quite a transformation. I think on my Facebook page there are videos, that are sped up for time or whatever that shows the layers of work they went through to create that look. And it was just mind blowing. It was getting out of it though. I understand where Robert Englund's coming from. Getting out of it, and going through it's one thing, but getting out of it at the end of the day when you're absolutely, exhausted, that can start to wear on you. And I'm sure that's, my God, how many did Warwick do? I don't know how I went that long.
Right.
But hey, he's done his time in hell. He deserves to, okay, here's a little powder, Mr. Davis. You're done.
Right, exactly, no doubt. You brought it up. I was going to ask you about it next. Leprechaun Returns. Geez, a lot of people call that, the best entry in the franchise. We had Lyndon Porco on the show earlier last year. Can you tell us a little bit, how was it reprising that role so many years later? I mean, was it you had to get back in that mindset? How was that?
Well, I wondered about that when I started talking to them, and of course, Ozzy, just like you and I changed over a 25-year period, Ozzy would change too.
Right.
And that was the conclusion the director came to. His fix for it is, let's not worry about too much about how Ozzy, reprising Ozzy, because he would be, quite different in many ways. So I think that worked a lot better than the, my initial instinct. But let's see, Mr. Porco. Mr. Porco's a wild man, and he was great, great to work with, and he was still, a kid in a lot of ways, but he was a trooper. He went through it or whatever, and he was so sweet to me. Out here, I am the old man in the group, and he would open the door to the van when we, go to set or whatever, and he'd say, "Okay, here you go." I said, "No, get your ass up in there. You're playing the title role." Had a little going thing to where we would have to go through that, where I would have to threaten him with his life and make him get up in there and ride shotguns. Where he wanted to fight anyway.
Yeah, he was so gracious when we had him on the show. I mean, he seemed like just such a down to earth guy, and a pleasure to work with, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, besides the fact that he killed you, I'm sure that wasn't pleasant.
Well, I think he had a lot of fun with that role, and I think there's good things in his future. I hope so.
Oh, absolutely. The big one, you got your starring role in 2003 as you took on playing John Wayne Gacy in Gacy. Can you talk a little about that and how it felt being the lead, and a little bit about your experience from that film, Mr. Holton?
Well, first of all, stop calling me Mr. Holton.
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
I know, I do it all the time. Don't call me sir. Okay, yes, sir. No, that was the toughest film I've ever done in my life. Got to a point with the director who came at things very different, and it was I don't know how to put it nicely. I did an interview recently and just kind of laid bare everything that happened on that set or whatever, and the director contacted me and I guess was unaware that I felt that way. I fired back and said, "Okay, water under the bridge."
Right.
But when you have somebody on an A-frame ladder just out of frame flipping lit matches at you,
whoa,
that gets a little wackadoodle, and stuff like that kept happening. And finally, I said, "Okay, I'm going to go outside. Do not follow me out there. I'm going to think for a minute, and then when I come back in, we're going to have a little talk." And I get along with everybody. I will bend over backward to get along with someone. But it just got to the point of where I couldn't deal with it anymore. And I remember when they opened the big sliding door and the sunlight came in, I stepped out there and I lit a cigarette and I turned around, and I had pretty much made up my mind of where I'm done. I'm going to get in my car and leave. And I turned around and I looked at people dashing back and forth and all the people on the crew, and I thought, my God, we are so far into this thing. If I quit, there's no way this film will ever get done. And all these people, what's it going to do to them? So I felt like, I couldn't in good conscience do what would have been the selfish thing at that point. So I went in, film got done, and there were, good days and bad days. It was definitely a different experience, to say the least.
Yeah, wow, I didn't know that. But that speaks a lot about your character too. Being empathetic towards everybody else on the set, and I didn't know that. That sounds like some Stanley Kubrick stuff that's coming out. Like that sounded crazy.
Yeah, it was. That's a good word for it. There was a lot of craziness going on.
Well, let's move on then, and So, talk about kind of your future here. I mean, it looks like you have a role coming up in the new Michael Levy helmed horror movie Stream. That's Stream. There are a lot of horror alum attached to that, including, some people we've talked to and had on the show with David Howard Thornton, obviously Lyndon Porco, and Jeffrey Combs, and Felissa Rose, too. So I know you can't probably tell us too much about your role, but, is there anything you can talk to us about, regarding that movie?
Well, all my scenes were with Jeffrey Combs.
Okay.
And if you're going to, be in a film in that genre, I will tell you that my character doesn't make it all the way through the film. If you're going to have somebody take you out, who better than the old reanimator himself?
Right, exactly.
He was great to work with. Michael Levy is a dream to work with. He's a wonderful director. And the crew, I guess this was their third film together. And you can take any member of that crew and put them on this podcast and have a great show. Because they're like little walking encyclopedias. Some of them very big walking encyclopedias. I better watch it. But yeah, we'll see. It was really a wonderful thing, in the middle of the COVID funk that everybody was in. All of a sudden, I had a way to get out of here for a week and go work on a film and get get tested to see if I had the virus or whatever. And I was, with a group of people that were in this old hotel, cast and crew, and all the, the sets and everything were there in the hotel. So I literally walked into that hotel and was there a week before I walked out. I never left. It was all contained, and everybody there was tested. So it was a nice break from the solitude and seclusion and, being in COVID jail.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Really a bright little week in my life, except for the fact that my check-through bag ended up in Abu Dhabi.
Oh.
I was there for a week. Yeah. Yeah.
Just right up the road.
Bad thing about that's pretty much all I have to say about Scream that I can say.
Right,
oh, yes, sir. We look forward to seeing that. Can you tell us a little about your website that you just launched, markholtonstore.com? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, literally just days ago. This was another, project or whatever that I've had, tossed around for a couple of years or whatever. And I thought, well, now might be a good time, because we literally saw all the conventions just evaporate. They're gone, and they'll come back slow. They'll come back, but who knows? They keep changing the rules on us, and who knows who's going to, step forward and say, okay, we're definitely, this is definitely going to happen. And it'll take time. I'm probably, anticipating the best case scenario, maybe late summer, early fall, for the conventions to start up again. And I thought, well, this would be a way for all these people that are used to, a lot of people just go from one convention to the other.
Oh, yeah.
Or they'll pick out 2 or 3 during the year and go there, and they'll add to their collections of memorabilia and autographs and get their posters signed and bring items that, personal items or whatever, that they want signed by people. And I thought, well, I could just open this little online store and offer things based on the most, popular characters that I've played. If people want, anything with apparel, I think we came up with some pretty funny stuff for T-shirts, anything like that. And then we've got the coffee mugs. and also, personalized signed 8x10s. So, and there's even a mouse pad. So, I would just invite everybody, if you get a look, I bet you leave with a smile on your face.
Yeah, absolutely. I was checking that out earlier today. There's a lot of really good stuff on there. The markholtonstore.com, just to repeat that again.
Yes.
And that's not only it. I mean, you guys, you can find you on Cameo as well, where you were kind enough to do an intro for us as well. Is there anything else that you have coming up? Anything else on the docket you'd like to talk to our audience about, or want to plug one more time?
Nothing set in stone right now. I'm still waiting to hear about a couple of things that I really don't want to jinx at this point.
Right.
But I'm going to be adding some characters to the store and filling my time doing that. But it's it's time for a little break here. I've had a pretty full 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry, I almost called you Mr. Holton again. We really appreciate you coming on our show. It's been an honor to have you on to talk to us about your career. And before we let you go, I'm just going to give you one more shout out. Check out his website, markholtonstore.com. And if you want a shout out on Cameo, just visit him on Cameo. Thank you for coming on our show. We really appreciate it, Mr. Holton.
And we'll absolutely promote that on all our social media sites too.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
It's fun.
Yeah. Yes, sir. You have a good one.
You too, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.